What if I told you that your mind isn't trapped inside your skull but connected to something far greater than you've ever imagined? That the very fabric of your consciousness might be woven into the quantum structure of reality itself? Welcome to Arcane Horizons, where we explore the mysteries of consciousness, quantum reality, and the unknown. In today's video, we're diving deep into one of the most mind-bending discoveries in modern science, the connection between your mind and the quantum universe. What if your thoughts aren't just confined to your brain? What if they are connected to everything around you, across space, time, and even galaxies? Let's explore quantum entanglement and how it's rewriting everything we know about the mind, reality, and our place in the universe. There's a discovery so revolutionary, so mind-bending, that it's forcing scientists to completely reconsider what consciousness actually is. And it all starts with a phenomenon that even Einstein refused to believe was possible. Picture this: two particles become mysteriously linked. No matter how far apart you separate them, even across entire galaxies, they remain instantly connected. Touch one, and the other responds immediately. Not through any signal we can detect, not through any force we understand, but through what scientists now call quantum entanglement. Einstein famously called this spooky action at a distance because it violated everything he believed about reality. How could particles communicate faster than light? How could they maintain this invisible bond across impossible distances? It seemed absurd, impossible, yet decades of experiments have proven it's absolutely real. But here's where things get truly extraordinary. What if this same phenomenon doesn't just apply to particles in a laboratory? What if it applies to you, to your thoughts, your awareness, your very sense of being alive? Scientists are now discovering that consciousness might not be what we've always assumed it to be. Instead of being produced by your brain like a computer generates data, your awareness might actually be tapping into a quantum field that connects all minds, all matter, all existence into one unified whole. This isn't science fiction. This is cutting-edge research happening in laboratories around the world right now. And if these theories are correct, it means everything you thought you knew about yourself, about reality, about the nature of existence itself, is about to change forever. Your intuition. That might be quantum entanglement at work. Those moments when you think of someone just before they call, that could be your consciousness accessing information through quantum channels. The feeling that you're connected to something larger than yourself, that might not be a feeling at all. It might be the most fundamental truth about what you actually are. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to take you on a journey that will challenge everything you believe about consciousness, reality, and your place in the universe. You'll discover how quantum mechanics is rewriting the rules of neuroscience, why the brain might be more like a quantum computer than we ever imagined, and how ancient spiritual insights are suddenly aligning with the most advanced physics of our time. But first, we need to understand exactly what quantum entanglement is and why it's so revolutionary. Because once you grasp this concept, you'll never look at your own mind the same way again. Imagine you have two coins, but these aren't ordinary coins. These coins are quantum entangled. You flip one coin in New York, and instantly, without any communication, a matching coin in Tokyo knows exactly how to land. Not because the outcome was predetermined, but because at the moment you flip your coin, both coins exist in what physicists call a superposition, a state where they're simultaneously heads and tails until the moment of observation. The act of looking at your coin doesn't just determine its fate, it determines the fate of its entangled partner across the world, instantaneously. This connection transcends space and time as we understand them. It suggests that at the deepest level of reality, separation is an illusion. Now, researchers have conducted thousands of experiments to test this phenomenon. One of the most famous is called Bell's inequality test. Without getting into complex mathematics, this test essentially proves that entangled particles are genuinely connected, not just appearing to be connected through some hidden mechanism we don't understand yet. The results are unambiguous. Quantum entanglement is real. The universe is fundamentally interconnected in ways that defy our everyday experience of reality. But here's where things get truly mind-bending. In some quantum experiments, scientists can make decisions about how to measure particles after those particles have already been detected. Yet somehow, those future decisions affect the past behavior of the particles. It's as if the future reaches back and influences what has already happened. This suggests that time itself might not work the way we think it does. That cause and effect, past and future, might be far more fluid than our classical understanding allows. And this is where consciousness enters the picture. Because in quantum mechanics, observation matters. The act of measuring, of becoming aware, doesn't just reveal reality, it appears to create it. When you observe a quantum system, you collapse what physicists call a wave function, transforming infinite possibilities into a single actuality. This raises a profound question that's been haunting quantum physicists for nearly a century. What counts as an observer? Does it have to be a conscious mind, or is any measuring device sufficient? And if consciousness does play a role in determining reality, what does that tell us about the nature of mind itself? These questions have led some of the world's most brilliant scientists to propose something that would have been considered absurd just decades ago. That consciousness isn't produced by the brain at all, but is instead a fundamental feature of the universe, as basic as matter and energy. Think about what consciousness actually does. It unifies your experience. Right now, you're simultaneously seeing, hearing, thinking, feeling, remembering. Yet somehow, all these separate streams of information come together into a single, coherent experience of being you. How does that happen? Classical physics has no explanation, but quantum mechanics does. Quantum systems naturally exist in unified states called superpositions. They don't have separate, independent parts. They exist as holistic wholes until the moment of observation. Consciousness also exhibits what appears to be non-locality. Have you ever had the experience of knowing something without knowing how you know it? Of sensing someone's presence before you see them? Of having thoughts that seem to come from nowhere? These experiences suggest that consciousness might not be confined to the boundaries of your skull. And then there's the mystery of free will. Your thoughts don't seem to be completely determined by prior causes. There's a spontaneity, an openness to consciousness that classical deterministic physics can't account for. But quantum mechanics is built on fundamental uncertainty. Outcomes aren't fixed until they're observed. These parallels between quantum mechanics and consciousness have led to some of the most revolutionary theories in modern science. Theories that suggest your brain isn't generating consciousness like a factory produces goods, but is instead tuning into consciousness like a radio receives broadcasts. One of the most compelling of these theories is called Orchestrated Objective Reduction, developed by physicist Sir Roger Penrose and anesthesiologist Stuart Hameroff. They propose that consciousness arises from quantum processes occurring within the cellular structures of your neurons. Specifically, they focus on tiny structures called microtubules, which exist inside every neuron in your brain. These microtubules, they argue, can support quantum coherence, creating entangled states across vast networks of brain cells. When these quantum states collapse, moments of conscious awareness emerge. If this theory is correct, your brain is essentially a biological quantum computer, processing information not just through electrical signals between neurons, but through quantum interactions within neurons. Each moment of consciousness would be a quantum event, a collapse of possibilities into experienced reality. Critics argue that the brain is too warm and noisy for such delicate quantum processes to survive. But recent research has discovered quantum effects in biological systems that were previously thought impossible. Plants use quantum coherence in photosynthesis. Birds may navigate using quantum entanglement in their visual systems. Even our sense of smell might rely on quantum tunneling effects. If nature can harness quantum mechanics for these processes, why not for consciousness itself? But even if consciousness does involve quantum processes in the brain, that doesn't necessarily mean your mind is entangled with anything beyond your body. Or does it? Here's where the implications become truly staggering. If consciousness is a quantum phenomenon, and if quantum entanglement is a fundamental feature of reality, then consciousness might not be contained within individual brains at all. Consider this possibility. What if individual consciousness is like a wave on an ocean of universal consciousness? What if your sense of being a separate self is similar to how a wave appears to be distinct from the ocean, even though it's fundamentally made of the same water? In this model, your brain wouldn't generate consciousness. Instead, it would tune into and modulate a field of consciousness that extends far beyond your individual existence. Just as a radio doesn't create the radio waves it receives but selects and amplifies particular frequencies, your brain might select and amplify particular patterns from a universal consciousness field. This isn't just poetic speculation. It's a testable scientific hypothesis. If consciousness is field-like and quantum entangled, then we should be able to observe correlations between minds that can't be explained by classical communication. And remarkably, such correlations have been observed. In carefully controlled experiments, researchers have found that when one person's brain is stimulated, measurably similar patterns can appear in the brain of someone in a different location, with no normal means of communication between them. These experiments are controversial and the effects are subtle, but they're reproducible. They suggest that minds might indeed be more connected than our classical worldview allows. Think about your own experience. Have you ever walked into a room and immediately sensed the emotional atmosphere, even before anyone spoke? Have you ever thought of someone just moments before they contacted you? Have you ever had insights or creative ideas that seem to come from beyond your normal thinking process? These experiences might not be coincidences or imagination. They might be evidence of quantum entanglement operating at the level of consciousness itself. If this is true, it would explain some of the most persistent mysteries of human experience. Why do people in love often seem to share thoughts and feelings across distance? Why do mothers sometimes sense when their children are in danger, even when they're far away? Why do groups of people sometimes spontaneously coordinate their behavior without any apparent communication? It might also explain the effectiveness of practices like meditation, prayer, and other contemplative disciplines that seem to expand awareness beyond the boundaries of the individual self. If consciousness is fundamentally entangled with the larger fabric of reality, then practices that quiet the individual mind might allow access to more universal patterns of information and awareness. But the implications go even further. If consciousness plays a role in collapsing quantum wave functions, and if consciousness is entangled across space and time, then your thoughts and intentions might literally influence reality at the most fundamental level. This doesn't mean you can think your way to winning the lottery. Quantum effects are subtle and typically only become noticeable when they're amplified through special conditions or repeated many times. But it does suggest that consciousness is not just a passive observer of reality, but an active participant in its creation. Every moment, billions of quantum events are occurring throughout the universe. If consciousness influences even a tiny fraction of these events, the cumulative effect over time could be significant. Your thoughts, your intentions, your very awareness might be participating in the ongoing creation of the world around you. This perspective brings together ancient wisdom traditions and cutting-edge science in a way that would have been unimaginable just decades ago. The idea that consciousness is fundamental to reality, that minds are interconnected, that thoughts have power to influence the physical world, these concepts have been central to spiritual teachings for thousands of years. Now quantum mechanics is providing a scientific framework that makes these ideas not just plausible, but necessary to explain the experimental evidence. Of course, this is still a rapidly evolving field. Many of these theories remain controversial and much more research needs to be done. But the foundations are solid. Quantum entanglement is real. Consciousness remains unexplained by classical physics, and the parallels between quantum mechanics and the nature of mind are too striking to ignore. What's emerging is a new understanding of what you are. Not an isolated individual trapped inside a biological machine, but a conscious participant in an interconnected quantum reality. Your mind isn't separate from the universe. It's woven into the very fabric of existence. This means that everything you think, feel, and experience matters in ways you might never have imagined. You're not just observing reality, you're helping to create it. You're not separate from others. You're entangled with them at the deepest level of being. The implications for how we understand relationships, creativity, healing, learning, and human potential are enormous. If consciousness is quantum entangled, then the boundaries between self and other, mind and matter, inner and outer reality are far more fluid than we've believed. We might be living in a universe that's more like a vast mind than a mechanical system. A universe where consciousness is not an accident but the ground of all being. A universe where your awareness is not confined to your brain but extends into the quantum field that underlies all existence. This doesn't diminish the importance of the brain or the physical world. Your brain is still crucial as the interface between universal consciousness and individual experience. Your body is still the vehicle through which you participate in physical reality. But they're not the whole story. You are both the wave and the ocean, both the individual note and the cosmic symphony, both the observer and the observed. The quantum nature of consciousness means you're fundamentally connected to everything that exists, while still maintaining your unique perspective and experience. As this understanding continues to develop, it's likely to transform not just neuroscience and physics, but our entire approach to medicine, education, psychology, and spirituality. If consciousness is quantum entangled, then healing might work through non-local connections. Learning might involve tapping into fields of information. Creativity might be a process of tuning into universal patterns of possibility. The quantum mind isn't just a scientific theory. It's a new way of understanding what it means to be human. It suggests that you're far more than you've ever imagined. More connected, more powerful, more fundamental to the nature of reality itself. Your consciousness isn't trapped in your head, it's entangled with the cosmos, and that changes everything. The journey of discovery is just beginning. As technology advances and our understanding deepens, we're likely to uncover even more extraordinary connections between mind and quantum reality. The universe is revealing itself to be stranger, more wonderful, and more intimately connected than we ever dared to dream. And you're not just discovering this reality, you're helping to create it, one conscious moment at a time. What if I told you that your thoughts right now are not confined to the space inside your skull but are rippling through an invisible network that connects every conscious being on this planet? What if the moment you think of someone and they suddenly call you isn't coincidence but evidence of something far more profound happening beneath the surface of reality? Welcome to the most mind-bending discovery in modern science, one that's quietly revolutionizing everything we thought we knew about consciousness, connection, and what it means to be human. This is about quantum entanglement and your mind, and once you understand this connection, you'll never see yourself or the world the same way again. Right now, as you're processing these words, your brain is generating electrical patterns, chemical cascades, and something else entirely that science is just beginning to understand. Your consciousness isn't just observing reality, it's actively participating in creating it through mechanisms that would have seemed like magic just decades ago. Let me take you on a journey that starts in the strangest realm of physics and ends with a revelation that could transform how you experience every moment of your existence. We're going to explore how the quantum world doesn't just govern particles in laboratory experiments, but might actually be the hidden architecture of your own awareness. Picture two particles, born from the same quantum event, spinning in opposite directions. Now imagine separating them by thousands of miles. According to everything we thought we knew about the universe, these particles should behave independently. Change one, and the other should remain unaffected. But that's not what happens. When scientists measure the spin of one particle, something impossible occurs. The other particle, despite being separated by vast distances, instantly responds. Not after light has had time to travel between them. Not after any signal could possibly be transmitted. Instantly. Albert Einstein famously called this spooky action at a distance because it violated everything classical physics told us about how the universe should work. This phenomenon is called quantum entanglement, and it's not theoretical speculation. It's been verified in countless experiments and forms the foundation for emerging technologies like quantum computers and quantum communication networks. But here's where it gets really interesting. What if this same principle that governs the behavior of particles also governs the behavior of minds? Consider the architecture of your brain for a moment. Roughly 86 billion neurons, each connecting to thousands of others, creating a network of incomprehensible complexity. Traditional neuroscience tells us that consciousness emerges from this biological computer through electrical and chemical processes. But there's a problem with this explanation, and it's called the hard problem of consciousness. Why do you experience anything at all? Why isn't your brain just a sophisticated biological machine processing information in the dark, without any inner experience, without any sense of what it's like to be you? Every attempt to explain consciousness through purely materialist mechanisms leaves something essential behind, something irreducible that cannot be captured by measuring neural activity alone. This is where quantum theories of consciousness enter the picture. Scientists like Sir Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff have proposed that consciousness might not emerge from classical neural computation, but from quantum processes occurring within the microscopic structures of brain cells. These quantum processes could create coherent states of awareness that transcend the limitations of classical physics. But let's go deeper. What if consciousness itself is not produced by the brain but is a fundamental feature of reality, woven into the quantum fabric of existence? What if your brain is not generating awareness but is instead a biological antenna, tuning into a field of consciousness that permeates everything? This perspective suggests that individual minds are not isolated islands of experience but connected nodes within a vast network of quantum entangled awareness. Just as particles can share quantum states across space, conscious minds might share informational states across what we perceive as separate boundaries. Think about those moments of inexplicable knowing. You walk into a room and immediately sense tension, even though nothing obvious indicates conflict. You think of a friend you haven't spoken to in years, and within hours, they reach out to you. You have a vivid dream that later manifests in your waking life with uncanny accuracy. In a classical worldview, these experiences are dismissed as coincidence or psychological projection. But in a quantum-connected reality, they might be evidence of entangled awareness. The implications extend far beyond individual experience. If consciousness operates through quantum entanglement, then the boundaries between self and other, between inner experience and outer reality, become much more fluid than we've imagined. Your thoughts might not be purely private events occurring in the isolation of your skull, but part of a larger informational matrix that influences and is influenced by the quantum field of existence. This brings us to one of the most profound concepts in this exploration: the observer effect. In quantum mechanics, the act of observation fundamentally alters what is being observed. A quantum system exists in a state of probability until measured, at which point the wave function collapses into a definite state. But what constitutes observation? What collapses the wave function from possibility into actuality? Many quantum physicists have concluded that consciousness plays a crucial role in this process. Your awareness doesn't just passively witness reality, it actively participates in determining what becomes real. This means that consciousness is not merely a byproduct of material processes but a fundamental force in the universe, capable of influencing the very fabric of existence. Now, imagine scaling this up from individual particles to the complex systems that make up your daily experience. If consciousness can influence quantum states, and if quantum effects permeate biological systems, then your thoughts, intentions, and focus might have far more power to shape your reality than traditional science has acknowledged. Recent research in quantum biology has shown that living systems routinely harness quantum effects. Birds navigate using quantum entanglement in their visual systems. Plants optimize photosynthesis through quantum coherence. Even our sense of smell appears to operate through quantum tunneling effects. If simpler biological systems can utilize quantum mechanics, why would the most complex biological system we know, the human brain, be exempt from these phenomena? Consider the synchronized firing patterns that occur across different regions of your brain during moments of heightened awareness, creativity, or insight. These gamma-wave oscillations share mathematical similarities with quantum entanglement structures. What if these aren't just correlations but actual manifestations of quantum coherence occurring within your neural networks? This leads us to explore how quantum entanglement might explain some of the most mysterious aspects of human experience. Take intuition, for instance, that sudden knowing that seems to arise from nowhere, providing information that logic alone couldn't have generated. In a quantum model of consciousness, intuition might be the result of your awareness accessing non-local information through entangled connections with larger patterns of meaning. Synchronicity, those meaningful coincidences that seem to violate statistical probability, might also find explanation in quantum entanglement. If consciousness and external events are connected through quantum correlations, then the alignment of inner states with outer circumstances becomes not just possible but expected. The universe begins to look less like a collection of random events and more like a coherent system responding to conscious participation. Even healing might operate through these quantum connections. When you focus conscious attention on your body, you might be creating coherent quantum states that facilitate biological harmony and repair. This isn't mystical thinking but a potential mechanism grounded in the fundamental physics of information and energy exchange. The therapeutic power of meditation, prayer, and other consciousness-focused practices might stem from their ability to create quantum coherence between mind and body, between individual awareness and the larger field of existence. These practices don't just calm the mind, they might actually tune your consciousness to more harmonious frequencies within the quantum field. But perhaps the most radical implication of quantum entangled consciousness is what it means for the nature of self. If your awareness is connected through quantum correlations to other minds, to natural systems, and to the cosmos itself, then the sense of being a separate, isolated individual is revealed as a persistent illusion. You are not a drop of consciousness in an ocean of matter. You are the ocean becoming conscious of itself through the temporary focal point of your individual experience. This perspective doesn't diminish your uniqueness or personal responsibility but places them within a larger context of interconnected being. Ancient wisdom traditions have pointed to this truth for millennia. The Vedantic principle of Tat Tvam Asi, you are that, suggests that individual consciousness and universal consciousness are not separate realities but different expressions of the same fundamental awareness. Buddhism's concept of interdependence teaches that all phenomena arise in relationship, that nothing exists in isolation. Indigenous cultures worldwide have maintained that consciousness extends far beyond the human realm, connecting all life in a web of mutual influence. What's remarkable is how quantum physics, pursuing purely materialist investigations, has arrived at insights that echo these ancient teachings. The universe revealed by quantum mechanics is not a machine made of separate parts but a holistic system of interconnected relationships. Reality at its deepest level is relational, probabilistic, and conscious. This convergence of scientific and spiritual insights points toward a new understanding of what it means to be human. You are not merely a biological organism that happened to develop consciousness through random evolutionary processes. You are consciousness itself, temporarily focused through biological structures, participating in the universe's ongoing process of self-discovery and evolution. Your thoughts matter in ways that extend far beyond their immediate psychological effects. Every moment of attention, every choice of focus, every emotional state contributes to the overall coherence or incoherence of the quantum field. You are constantly broadcasting and receiving information through channels that transcend the limitations of space and time. This realization carries profound ethical implications. If all consciousness is entangled at the quantum level, then harming another being creates disturbance in your own field of experience. Conversely, contributing to another's well-being enhances the coherence of the entire network. Compassion emerges not as a moral obligation imposed from outside, but as recognition of the fundamental interconnectedness that quantum entanglement reveals. The implications extend to how we understand death and the continuity of consciousness. If awareness is entangled with the quantum field rather than produced by the brain, then the dissolution of biological structures doesn't necessarily mean the annihilation of consciousness. Death might be a transition from localized to non-local awareness, from individual to collective consciousness, from particle to wave. This perspective finds support in the reports of individuals who have experienced clinical death and return with memories of expanded awareness, encounters with deceased relatives, and access to information that couldn't have been acquired through normal sensory channels. Rather than dismissing these accounts as hallucinations produced by dying brain cells, quantum consciousness suggests they might be genuine experiences of awareness operating beyond biological constraints. As we look toward the future, research into quantum consciousness is advancing rapidly. Scientists are developing more sophisticated methods for detecting quantum effects in biological systems. Experiments with quantum random number generators are testing whether consciousness can influence probabilistic outcomes. Studies of distant healing, telepathic communication, and precognitive awareness are employing rigorous protocols to investigate phenomena that traditional science has long dismissed. The results, while still emerging, suggest that consciousness might indeed operate through quantum mechanisms. Statistical anomalies in these studies challenge classical explanations and point toward the possibility that awareness can access and influence information beyond the limits of space and time. But you don't need to wait for scientific consensus to explore these possibilities in your own experience. Every day offers opportunities to investigate the quantum nature of consciousness. Pay attention to moments of sudden knowing, to synchronicities that seem to respond to your thoughts, to times when you sense the presence or emotional state of someone distant. Notice how your inner state affects your outer circumstances. Observe how focusing attention with clear intention seems to influence outcomes in ways that pure chance cannot explain. Experiment with meditation practices that quiet mental noise and allow deeper patterns of connection to emerge. What you might discover is that the boundaries between inner and outer, between self and world, between thought and reality are far more permeable than conventional wisdom suggests. You might begin to experience yourself not as a separate observer of an external universe but as a conscious participant in an ongoing cosmic conversation. This shift in perspective has the power to transform every aspect of your life. Relationships become opportunities for conscious entanglement, for mutual evolution and shared awakening. Work becomes a way to contribute coherence to the collective field of human experience. Challenges become invitations to discover deeper levels of connection and resilience. Even mundane activities take on new significance when understood as quantum interactions. The food you eat, the environment you inhabit, the people you encounter, all become part of an intricate web of mutual influence operating through mechanisms that science is only beginning to understand. The quantum mind connection reveals that you are far more powerful and connected than you've been taught to believe. Your consciousness is not trapped in the confines of your skull but extends through invisible networks that link you to all of existence. Your thoughts are not private events but ripples in a vast ocean of awareness. This understanding comes with both tremendous empowerment and significant responsibility. If your consciousness can influence quantum states, if your awareness participates in creating reality, then every moment becomes an opportunity to choose coherence over chaos, love over fear, connection over separation. The ancient mystics were not deluded when they spoke of unity with the divine, of consciousness that transcends individual boundaries. They were describing the same quantum reality that physics is now revealing through experimental investigation. The sacred and the scientific are not opposing worldviews but different languages describing the same underlying truth. As we stand on the threshold of a new era in consciousness research, we're being invited to reconsider everything we thought we knew about mind, matter, and the nature of existence itself. The quantum revolution is not just technological but existential, not just changing what we can do but who we understand ourselves to be. The connection between quantum entanglement and consciousness challenges us to expand our sense of identity beyond the isolated self to embrace our fundamental interconnectedness with all of life. It invites us to recognize our role as conscious co-creators in the ongoing evolution of reality itself. This is not abstract philosophy but practical wisdom for navigating existence in an interconnected universe. When you understand that your consciousness is entangled with the quantum field, every choice becomes an opportunity to influence the collective awakening of human awareness. The quantum mind connection reveals the deepest truth of existence. You are not separate from the universe you inhabit. You are the universe becoming conscious of itself through the miracle of your individual awareness. And through that awareness, you participate in the cosmic process of evolution, creativity, and love. The boundaries that seem to separate you from others, from nature, from the cosmos itself are revealed as temporary illusions maintained by limited perception. In reality, you exist within an infinite web of quantum correlations that connect your deepest thoughts to the farthest stars, your most intimate feelings to the collective heart of humanity. This understanding transforms not just how you see yourself but how you engage with every moment of existence. You become a conscious participant in the universe's journey of self-discovery, a unique focal point through which infinite consciousness experiences itself in finite form. The quantum mind connection you cannot ignore is ultimately the recognition that consciousness and cosmos are not two separate realities but one undivided whole expressing itself through countless interconnected perspectives. And you, right now, are one of those perspectives through which the universe is awakening to its own infinite nature. What you've just learned could change the way you see yourself, others, and the entire universe. But this journey is just beginning. If you're fascinated by the interconnectedness of reality and want to explore more profound discoveries, make sure to like this video, comment with your thoughts, and share it with those who need to hear this. And don't forget to subscribe to Arcane Horizons. Hit the bell icon so you never miss another deep dive into the mysteries of existence. Remember, you're not just observing reality, you're actively shaping it. Stay connected, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next video.